Welcome. I'm Bill Shute, the Executive Director of the Washington Center at the LBJ School, University of Texas at Austin. I cannot tell you how happy we are to see you all here. It is so good to be able to do a ceremony honoring our great cohort of 2021 in person with family and friends. So thank you for coming. For those who don't know about the Washington Center, it is a center of two purposes. One is to be an important forum for dialogue and discussion about the challenges that we're facing today as a nation, certainly the challenges that the past 2 years have brought to the forefront and have continued to surprise us at every turn. It's also at its core an organization that helps aspiring young policy professionals build the skill set they need, learn the tools that they will take forward for our better good as a society. In one sense, today marks the conclusion of that experience for this exceptional group of women and men who've completed their master's degrees in Masters of Public Affairs or Masters of Global Policy Studies. But more importantly, it marks the beginning of a new journey for each of them as they cross that threshold from student to public policy professional. And joining us today to honor these exceptional individuals is an individual who's also charted his own successful career in public policy. Dr. J.R. DeShazo was appointed the 12th Dean of the LBJ School just this past July, and comes to us from a very successful career at UCLA, where he was a professor of public policy with joint appointments in, get this, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Department of Urban Planning, and the Institute of Environment and Sustainability. But that wasn't enough. He was the founding director of the Lecomte Center for Innovation, one of the nation's leading environmental policy research centers. And he served in a variety of administrative roles, including vice chair and chair of UCLA's Department of Public Policy. Through his research and appointments, he has served as a policy advisor to international organizations such as the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and the United Nations, as well as federal agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, and the National Science Foundation. Distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming Dean J.R. DeShazo.
Thank you, Professor Shute. And let me just add my congratulations to the graduates and express how happy I am to be able to join you. It's my pleasure to come up from Austin and to celebrate your accomplishments today and share those with your family and loved ones. Public policy is a call to public service, and it requires a wide range of skills. And I'm seeing this more for the parents because the graduates know that they have been trained in statistics, thinking about political strategy, different kinds of analysis. They need to understand institutions. And then the LBJ brand, really from its very beginning, was an immersive experiential learning and learning from practitioners, right? And the DC concentration allows them to do that in spades. And we're very proud of this program and the opportunity that it affords our graduates. We are the only top 10 public policy program in the country that has an immersive DC experience. And so we're really grateful that you all were able to take advantage of that. Now, many of you who've studied the legacy of President Johnson know that he touched almost every kind of policy domain, but he was best known for advancing civil rights and creating a wide range of new economic opportunities for upward mobility. And at a personal level, you know, my journey to public policy started really, I think I was probably an undergraduate in college when I could look back on my own experience and that of my family and realize that as the oldest of 7 children in a working class rural Virginia community, that we had benefited from a wide range of public policies. Everything from free and reduced lunch to heat oil subsidies to my ability to go to a public university on a Pell Grant, another legacy of President Johnson. And so my own experience was one of seeing expanded opportunities and being able to take advantage of those because of public policies. And I committed really pretty early on to wanting to study, just as you are, and improve those policies so that other people could have similar opportunities and have also a wide range of rights protected. You know, one of the things that I like to do as I approach every commencement is just reflect on what are the public policy challenges on the front line that our graduates are going to go out and face. What are the challenges that they meet? And as I think many of you know, the LBJ School has now graduated over 50 classes of students. And those students over time have graduated into societies that were involved in military conflicts that were the central focus, trade wars, economic recessions, opioid crises, a whole range of policy challenges. And so I think it's appropriate for us to just reflect for a moment on where are we today in terms of the front line of public policies, and what are the challenges that you're going to face and confront. And when I reflect on that question, I reflect on how polarized we are as a society right now. We have broken, despite the fact that we're connected by technology, we've been broken up and have withdrawn into our different groups and communities. And, you know, whether you're on the right or the left, there are these tendencies to want to cancel civic debate and cancel speech and villainize the other side and really tribalize ourselves. And this makes policy very challenging to develop in a rational way that's good for society. You layer on top of that the fact that, as you all know, and you've overcome this challenge, society is reeling from the pandemic and trying to figure out how it adapts, right? And it's a major public health challenge for us nationally and globally. It's also, though, a challenge for the marketplace. We are going through kind of the great resignation right now, and many organizations are trying to adapt to new human resource challenges of not having enough workers. There's supply chain challenges, and we don't know when it's going to end, right? And so it's a moment of uncertainty. It's a moment where I think each of us in different ways have been surprised by what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years collectively. And so my kind of call to action for you is to recognize that you came into the program wanting to make the world a better place through the policy domains that you focused on, right? And you're going to go out and you're going to start your careers, and you're going to try and advance the public good as you see fit through whether it's healthcare, national security, environment, transportation, international development. But I think there's something else that I want to ask you to try and help us do, which is rebuild our American community. And I think that we do that by trying to make sure that we understand each other, and we create those opportunities for understanding. So my challenge to you, and I'm trying to implement this myself as Dean of the LBJ School, because I feel like this is the challenge for policymaking today, is to listen to those that we don't understand, to listen to those we might disagree with. And that listening, I don't think it's not going to provide a solution to all the problems. But if you listen and you are able to understand the experience of the other person, I can guarantee you will be a better communicator, you'll be a better leader, you'll be able to approach those groups in the future having mutual respect, because they know that you've listened to them. And for many of you who will not only be, policy analysts in your domain, but you'll be leaders public organizations and nonprofits, and even in regulatory departments leading private firms forward. In managing that change, you'll be able to craft those policy compromises, those improvements that require working together across the aisle much more effectively. So that's my challenge to you, is not just to be great policy analysts, but to help us as a community really restore a sense of civil dialogue, even among those of us that we disagree with. And that will make for a much better policy development environment in the future. I also want to just congratulate you. I want to thank your parents and your partners and your loved ones for supporting you. They couldn't have done it by themselves. They needed your love, your support, maybe your financial contribution. So thank you for making all that possible. And I want to welcome you into not just the Longhorn community, but the LBJ community. You are now officially, or soon to be very officially, alumni of the LBJ School. And as such, you will be part of that family, part of that alumni network. We will be asking you to help support students find internships, policy research projects, helping you open doors for them as they try and get the jobs that either you have or you will soon have. And we'll also be here when it's time to make a change in your career and you're looking for that next move, upwards, laterally, whatever it's going to be. Our career services help mid-career transitions as well. So welcome. And with that, I think I'll just say congratulations and hook 'em.
Thank you very much, Dean. Appreciate you being here with us as well. Facing, debating, solving grand policy challenges is exactly what President Johnson had in mind at the founding of the school just over 50 years ago. His mantra and his charge to what has become the 50 years of administration of the school has been to create an environment that produces doers, not just thinkers. And that's exactly what our graduates today are prepared to be and will begin being very shortly. It's that ability to jump into the arena and to make change in a positive fashion that inspired the school to start this program, this DC concentration. Those who are getting ready to take their first steps towards that professional career have that common purpose, but that individual drive for policy and public service. And late breaking news, they may be a small cohort, but they're a mighty cohort. 4 of them have just been selected as finalists for the Presidential Management Fellowship, a phenomenal accomplishment. To recognize the accomplishments of this group, I'd like to invite Janneth Perales to come up and speak on behalf of the cohort. Jan?
Thank you, Bill, for the warm introduction. Good afternoon and welcome faculty, staff, family, and friends, and a special welcome to everyone joining us virtually. I think I can speak for my classmates when I say that we couldn't have done it without our support systems. So thank you to Bill, Robin, our professors, colleagues, partners, friends, and family for all your support these past 18 months. Today, before we graduate and re-enter the world once again, I want to talk about our journey as a class from Austin, or in my case, from my parents' basement in Minnesota to DC, all during a global pandemic. And as the world had to adjust to a new reality, we had each other to navigate both a new way of living and learning. For some of us, it had been a while since we were in school. For me, it felt just like the first day of undergrad. I was excited to meet my classmates and professors. And through what seemed like countless introductions, I got to learn more and more about my classmates. I was inspired by their passion for public service and the journeys that brought them to LBJ. I just remember thinking, whoa, these are some of the smartest people I've ever met. I was thrilled to get to know them more, even if it was from behind a computer screen. I do remember the first time some of us hung out virtually. We had a game night and played Cards Against Humanity. What a better way to get to know someone, am I right? We played and chatted for hours. And in a time of social distancing, it was the first time I truly felt connected to my peers. Soon after, we bonded about our mutual anticipation of going to DC. We weren't sure what to expect going to DC during a global pandemic. Like, were we going to be allowed to go into the office for apprenticeships? And of course, how are we going to participate in DC's favorite pastime, networking? In the meantime, we were each other's cheerleaders, a second pair of eyes on resumes and cover letters, and a soundboard for our elevator pitches. A special shout out to Amy, our resident expert on all things DMV related, for helping us navigate the big move. Finally, after a full year of virtual learning, we got to meet each other in person. I have to admit, it was weird meeting in person, even after a year getting to know their pets and admiring their wall art. Although we may have initially forgotten how to socialize, it did not take long for that to fade away, especially since we finally got to go to class in person. And I must say, 3-hour classes are way better in person. Now, during these 10-minute breaks that we would get, we would have a chance to catch up and chat about our days and commiserate over DC humidity. This was also a good opportunity for us to check in with each other. And so we gave each other advice on navigating workplace dynamics, and we got to learn more about all the projects we were working on in our apprenticeships. Our courses in DC this past summer and fall allowed us to bring our experiences at our apprenticeships and apply them to class. But we also got to bring what we learned in our classes to our apprenticeships. For example, as we were learning about congressional procedures and tracking legislation, I was able to translate those lessons to my apprenticeship and better serve the education trust. While working full-time and having classes kept us busy, we made sure to take every opportunity living in the nation's capital. Together, we explored cultural institutions like the National Gallery of Art and Natural History Museum, and we visited state parks like Great Falls in Virginia. We even road tripped to Baltimore and visited the National Aquarium. Just last week, Brianna and I saw the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, just like Nicolas Cage did in the cinematic masterpiece, National Treasure. And although I had lived in DC prior to attending LBJ, it was amazing to make new memories with my classmates. Now, when I reflect on our graduate school experience and all the ways the pandemic has shaped it, it is amazing that even during a time of such great strife, these government institutions continue to do the work of public policymakers before us. Now it's our turn to go out there. LBJ allowed us to delve into the most pressing problems of our time and find solutions. We got to learn from some of the leading policy experts on our array of issues. We were put in the center of the federal policy world and contributed our skills to real world issues. Today, we join an extraordinary group of alumni. So let's go and make the world a little better than we found it, because remember, what starts here changes the world. I'm so proud of this amazing group of people for their resilience, and I'm excited to watch and see what y'all do. Congratulations, class of 2021.
Well said. Thank you, Janneth. That was fantastic. As the dean pointed out, you're now joining a very large but very impactful family of LBJ alum. With over 4,400 alumni in the course of its history, the LBJ School continues to make a great impact on our nation's challenges, not only at the federal level, but at the state level, the local level, and certainly internationally as well. We're honored to have one such individual with us today. Errol Yabok is a senior fellow with the International Security Program at the Center for Strategic International Studies and director of the Project on Fragility and Mobility at CSIS. Previously, he was a senior fellow and deputy director with the CSIS Project on Prosperity and Development. His specific research interests include migration, forced displacement, violent conflict, global fragility, conflict-aware stabilization, violent extremism, climate change, civil military cooperation, disruptive technologies, and those are the only ones I could find online. Prior to CSIS, Errol served on the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, as well as the Evidence for Policy Design team at the Center for International Development at Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government. He also teaches a graduate level course on global fragility and resilience at the Maxwell School at Syracuse, here in town at their CSIS campus. and is a member of the board of directors for the Anti-Leadership Institute for Young Women, which is a Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit focused on developing next generation of women peace leaders. He also bleeds burnt orange, like many of us in this room here, having attained a BBA in international business from UT and an MPA from the LBJ School. In addition, and finally, he was recently recognized as the 2021 recipient of the Rising Leader Award, which recognizes the efforts of a recent LBJ alum who improves the quality of public service for the betterment of all of us. With that, please welcome Ariel.
I feel like I need to take you with me wherever I go. Thanks for having me. Dean DeShazo, welcome again to Austin. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for taking on this challenge. And I know I speak on behalf of all LBJ alums, including the soon-to-be LBJ alums, in wishing you luck and offering to support your efforts to take the institution to the next level. Bill and Robin, thank you for running a great program here at the LBJ Washington Center. I've said many times that I wish it had existed when I was in school. Your hard work and dedication to the growth of these and more students is admirable and appreciated. Janneth, thanks for your inspiring words. You're certainly a tough act to follow, although I will say I'm pretty sure that's the first time National Treasure has been called a cinematic masterpiece. I'm going to turn this way because I'm mostly going to talk to y'all. Soon to be former students, congratulations. What an accomplishment, especially during a global pandemic. Can't even imagine how hard that must have been. And yes, I know many of you are really apprehensive about what comes next. Will I get a job? Will that job be the right job? Will I be able to explain how cool that job is to my parents while definitely avoiding their question about my salary? Will I be pigeonholed as a regionalist if I take that job versus this one? Will I ever understand whether it's better to be a deep expert in something or a wide generalist in everything? There's more online if you keep searching. I know in a commencement speech, I'm supposed to quote something pithy by Shakespeare or Socrates, or how life's a journey with twists and turns and other useless platitudes, which might work if I were famous, but I'm not. So I thought instead I'd pretend like we're just grabbing coffee, DC's favorite pastime, in hopes that afterwards you'll be slightly less stressed out about those questions from mom and dad. It doesn't seem that long ago that I was in your shoes. The day after turning in my PR, I hopped in my Volkswagen Jetta and I left Austin. I'd found a room on Craigslist in a basement apartment just up the street here in Logan Circle. I was excited and terrified, partly because even after selling that car, I had about enough money for 2 months' rent. Like most of you, I came to DC because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make the world a better place. In fact, I even wrote down a list of what I wanted to achieve on a blog that nobody read. Don't judge me. It was the mid-2000s. Everybody had a blog. I remember writing something about how I wanted to be a change maker. I just didn't know how. You see, I grew up mostly in Turkey. That's where the funny name comes from. The son of a Turkish hotel manager and a music teacher from Wichita Falls, Texas. When I came to Austin as a business school undergrad, it was me who was going abroad for college, lost in a sea of 50,000 other students, all identifying ourselves by a number rather than a name. I studied international business mainly because it had the word international in the title. And they forced me to study abroad. Twist my arm. And the only job offer I had coming out of undergrad was at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So instead, I started at the LBJ School that same fall. I had applied on a whim and didn't realize until much later what a fortuitous whim that had been. Over the next 2 years, how to make a difference, how to make the world a better place, that all started to come into focus. At the very least, I had, and you have, the right vocabulary. You know what an NGO is. You know how many people don't know what an NGO is? Your eyes don't glaze over when someone says sustainable poverty alleviation strategies. You know that DC is an important part of that world-changing ecosystem. Crossing the bridge over the Potomac that first time in my VW, oh, who am I kidding? I was exhausted after driving all day, arrived when it was dark, and don't remember a damn thing. But I do remember waking up that next day, ready to start my journey, ready to make a difference. That journey, of course, started with an average of 22 cover letters over the next 4 weeks, all resulting in approximately 0 interviews. Sure, I grabbed a few coffees, but I also watched as my bank account dwindled along with what I thought were my chances to ever make a difference. After doing a year of temp work and another year doing an awful yet stable job, I got that first interview with an NGO doing incredible work all over the world. When I got that interview, I did everything you're told not to do. I showed up late. I was emotional. I talked too much. I wore my passion on my sleeve. I'm sure I looked desperate because I was. And for whatever reason, I got the job. What followed was the most interesting and challenging several years of my life. You see, I knew DC was where I wanted to end up, partly because even then, I realized that being a good person can impact many lives, but doing good policy can impact millions of lives. But I also didn't want to only have been here in DC, working my way up through the ranks of the foreign policy wonkosphere. I realized that what I wanted, what I needed, was more tangible experience outside of the United States. I needed to get outside my comfort zone. I needed not to just understand challenges, I needed to experience them, to feel them. Because to me, careers are not paths. A path insinuates linearity where little seems to exist more in our professional lives. Instead, I think we're all continually making deposits into 3 different buckets, or put another way, we are continually strengthening the legs of our 3-legged professional stool. At various times, we withdraw from those buckets, and when we need it most, we hope that stool won't wobble. The first bucket I like to think about is education. So congrats, you're well on your way. You're graduating from a top program, proving to the world and yourselves that you can hang with the best minds of your generation. But the educational journey may not end here for you, and I hope it doesn't. At CSIS, I'm continually learning, researching, and honing those educational skills. I supported the research of a Harvard economist and now teach a master's level course of my own, as Bill mentioned. If you're like me, you'll keep depositing into that bucket forever. The second bucket is street cred. We all have different interests, passions, and journeys. You've all had incredible policy apprenticeships, and I congratulate you all for that. Amy, where's Amy? Amy, you did a really cool apprenticeship at a healthcare policy firm. If you want to continue in that space, maybe think about one day working at a hospital or a low-income clinic. Tyler, congratulations on the haircut. How can you build on that economic development expertise that you got during your policy apprenticeship? Perhaps working for a chamber of commerce or a regional economic development foundation outside of DC. Arkneshri, congrats on having been with the National Endowment. That's really cool. If you want to continue in the arts, what can you do over time to signal a deeper understanding of the challenges facing that industry post-pandemic? And on and on and on. See, my chosen street is US foreign policy, and I, as Bill mentioned, have a gravitational pull towards tough places. So my cred requires stamps in my passport. But ultimately, nobody cares what my job titles were in Iraq or South Sudan or Afghanistan or Ethiopia. My cred comes from having lived and worked in those places, from being able to give advice to someone on how to navigate the Kabul airport, from building camaraderie with someone else who also witnessed the birth of a nation. That street cred comes from a carefully crafted resume showing my experiences, but more importantly, for the stories that came out of those experiences. Like that one time I accidentally and illegally entered Somalia. The third and last bucket is politics. That's politics with a capital P and with a lowercase p. Andrew, is that you? You're well on your way. You and I have picked a baseball team and we're signaling our capital P affiliations. What's next? Are you going to go work on Doggett's re-elects? Are you going to go somewhere else around the country during a pivotal midterm election cycle? I hope all of you stay and get more civically engaged. Dean J.R. DeSaggio said it beautifully. I think that's a really critical part of your next steps. Others of you may not be overtly partisan, and obviously that's great. That's totally fine too. But you can't forget about politics altogether, especially if you want to work in DC, not partisan politics necessarily, but the importance of grabbing coffee and saying yes when others want to grab coffee with you. The importance of going above and beyond for someone expecting nothing in return, the importance of playing that DC game. In a town full of overachievers with great educational qualifications like your own and serious street cred, the ability to play politics effectively can be the differentiator you need. Y'all are all at the beginnings of these journeys. Every day spent writing cover letters feels like a day wasted when you're ready to make a difference now. Every unsuccessful interview seems like the perfect job slipping away. Every decision seems like the most important decision you'll ever make. Trust me, it's not. I recently became a dad. You're going to make a lot more important decisions in your life. Think of each of those decisions, of whatever jobs you end up getting, as deposits into one of those three buckets: education, street cred, and politics. Think of them as making your three-legged stool that much sturdier. And think of the coming years as opportunities to build your repertoire of stories. You'll never know when they'll come in handy at Thanksgiving, or more importantly, in your quest to make the world a better place. Congratulations, best of luck, and hook 'em horns.
Thank you so much, Errol. I'd now like to call the dean back up to honor each of our graduates.
Okay, we good? Am I in there? All right, graduates. I'd like now to call each of you forward to be individually recognized. Tyler Baines. Tyler is a candidate for the Master's in Public Affairs, interested in healthcare, labor protection, and criminal justice, and serves as a teaching assistant for the finance department at the McDaniel School of Business. He completed his undergraduate degrees with honors at the University of Texas at Austin, obtaining 2 bachelor's degrees in history and government and the Business Foundation certificate. While earning his bachelor's, Tyler interned at the Texas House of Representatives. After graduating, he spent a year as an AmeriCorps Vista organizing and mobilizing low-income communities for the City of Dallas Planning and Urban Design Department. And his policy apprenticeship was with the Center for Regional Economic Competitiveness. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Baoyang. Baoyang Chor. How did I?
It's Bao Ngun, thank you.
Okay. Is a candidate for the Masters of Global Policy, focusing on refugee, resettlement, bilingual education, workforce development, and is a graduate research assistant with the Texas Institute for Family and Child Wellbeing. She graduated summa cum laude in political science and liberal studies at the University of Houston, became a certified nonprofit professional, and studied abroad as a Gilliam Scholar at Andalusia, Spain. In addition, she served as a policy analyst in the Texas House of Representatives, and her policy apprenticeship was with the Veterans for American Ideals. Congratulations. Okay.
Did that work? We don't want you to miss out.
Where's your gift?
Okay, right here, very good, awesome. Very good smile on screen, very good, thank you, awesome. Good, thank you.
All right. Oh, that was tricky. All right. Next, Andrew Keller. Andrew is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs with an interest in city decarbonization, green economic development, and institutional resilience. A man after my own heart here. He graduated magna cum laude in political science and journalism with a French minor at The Ohio State University. He's specifically interested in the intersection of climate change, mitigation, and economic development, particularly in the developing world. After college, he worked as a project manager in the private sector, managing technical initiatives for small startups and Fortune 500 companies. Meanwhile, he volunteered with the Sierra Club's Readiness for 100 campaign, which I'm also familiar with, in an effort to put cities on the path to 100% renewable energy. His policy apprenticeship was with the Aspen Institute and the Office of Representative Lloyd Dodgett. Congratulations.
That's right, everybody. Very good, that's great. Thank you very much.
Daniel Lecomte. Daniel is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs, focusing on national security, foreign policy, and public interest technology. He graduated with honors with a Bachelor of Commerce, which is International Management, as an undergraduate at the University of Ottawa. While earning his undergraduate degree, Lecomte acquired experience in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors and honed his interest in international politics, and more specifically, the foreign policy implications for the United States. His policy apprenticeship was with the Partnership for Public Service, and he's one of our presidential management intern finalists. Daniel, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Okay, my apologies. Sean McDaniels is the PMN finalist that I put the note next to the wrong name. Sean, would you please come forward? Sean is a candidate for Masters of Public Affairs, focused on American foreign policy, veterans affairs, civil rights, and gun violence. He is a cum laude graduate in theater from the Stephen F. Austin State University. In 2011, McDaniels commissioned as an Army Field Artillery Officer, later deployed to Afghanistan as a logistics officer, and Syria as the Squadron Fire Support Officer and Operations Officer. In Syria, his passion for public policy grew as he helped implement a joint training and combat patrol mission between the US and Turkey. He apprenticeship with Brady, which is a nonprofit gun safety advocacy organization, and is a PMI finalist. Congratulations.
Very good, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brianna Murphy. Brianna is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs with a focus on labor policy, wealth distribution, affordable housing. She majored in biology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, graduating with honors and as a member of Phi Beta Kappa. Prior to graduate school, she worked for the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services as a consumer protection investigator. Brianna's policy apprenticeship was with Results for America, and she is also a presidential management intern finalist. Congratulations.
Hold on. Make sure Dad gets a good one.
Oh, fine.
Congratulations. Nashri Neelan come forward. Nashri is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs focusing on federal arts administration and digital advertising regulation. As an undergraduate at the New York University Gatlin School of Individualized Studies, she developed a plan of study centered on the relationship between media studies, business, and sociology to explore how the intersection of those subjects can lead to efficacious storytelling that mobilizes and empowers people. Prior to graduate school, Neelan worked at Precision Strategies in a paid media digital advertising field on projects that range from elections to campaigns for progressive nonprofit organizations. This experience cultivated her interest in developing sustainable solutions to prevent false advertising, misinformation, especially in any advertising to drive specific election results. It sparked her desire to pursue a graduate degree and learn how to create actionable policies on issues beyond digital advertising. Her policy apprenticeship was with the National Endowment for the Arts, and she is also a presidential management intern finalist.
All parents come.
Janneth Perales. Janneth, thank you for your remarks. Janneth is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs with a focus on international education, pre-K to 12 education, immigration issues. She earned her undergraduate degree in international relations and global studies at the University of Texas at Austin. Prior to LBJ, she worked at Emily's List as a political researcher doing rapid response policy research for congressional candidates. Perales started her career as a middle school history teacher with Teach for America in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Her classroom experience developed her interest in the intersection between education, policy, race, and class. Her policy apprenticeship was with the Education Trust. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Amy Phillips. Amy is a candidate for the Masters of Public Affairs focusing on healthcare reform, voter and clinician perspectives, and the influence of special interests in the policymaking process. She graduated with honors in medical anthropology as an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania. In the 5 years prior to graduate school, Phillips worked at the Medicare Payment Advisory Commission and at Arnold Ventures, a group that we care near and dear for because they support so much of our research at the LBJ School, which developed her skills and interest in health policy, especially as it relates to payment and delivery reform, and enabled her to develop management skills as healthcare chief of staff at Arnold Ventures. Her policy apprenticeship was with Sirona Strategy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Would you come back up here for a minute, sir? You.
Me?
Yes. I neglected an important part of my duties.
Okay.
Robin, the dean, and I would all like to say thank you very much for taking.
Yeah, no, yeah. Do I get a second degree?
You can make a second check out. That's great. Parents, partners, friends, family, please take one more opportunity to recognize the phenomenal achievements of this group in front of us. I'd also like to take a moment to express my gratitude to the wonderful cohort of faculty members that we have here at the Washington Center. We're supported by so much of the alumni base in this town, but on a day-to-day, evening-to-evening basis, it's those who volunteer their time, their professional experience to help these now graduates along their journey. So from Elizabeth Rybicki and Dustin Brown, who could not be with us today, but representing this group, Kate Eltridge, thank you so much for your time. A special heartfelt thanks to the person who really makes this program a success and without whom none of this would be possible, the brains of the operation, Robin Preston. It is with a real mixture of joy and bitter sweetness that we send this group off into their professional careers. I am thoroughly convinced, having had the pleasure to know each of them over this past 15 months and to have had them in my class, that the future of our society, the future resolution of those grand challenges that have been referred to many times today are in very good hands. And that is so much to do with the great work that you all have done as well in helping these people along their journey. And we thank you for sharing them with us. We'd like to share a little more time with you as well with a reception in the adjoining room. If you would, please make your way there. Again, congratulations.